What is going on, guys? Today I have my full review on the New Balance Rebel V5. Now, is it better than last year's model that I personally didn't really like? 100% yes. So let's get right into the review. So as always, we are going to start off with the traction or outsole pattern on the New Balance Rebel V5. We're going to talk about the traction performance as well as the durability of the outsole so far. And I am pleased to say that this outsole was a very good choice by New Balance. The traction was good as well as the durability seems to be holding up very well after around 30 to 35 miles in the shoe. I personally felt like the traction gripped the ground really well. I'm not exactly sure if that was attributed to the rubber compound used or the rubber pattern used, but both of them I think are very good in this shoe, and you do have a pretty thick slab of it, so I do think that durability wise these are going to last a long time. Like, I personally can't really tell how much they've degraded with 30 to 35 miles on the shoe. So that's always a good sign, and you have ample coverage throughout the outsole, so that is also a very good sign. So overall, with 30 to 35 miles on the shoe, running in decent weather conditions, obviously I live in Southern California, so I'm not gonna be able to test these in the rain or in the snow or in like stormy weather conditions or humidity. So I mean, take this part of the review with a grain of salt. I thought that the traction performance did really well for me personally, as well as the durability so far has been very good from the Rebels outsole. So overall outsole, I would say, is definitely above average on this shoe. Now, moving on to the cushion setup of the Rebel V5, we have a full length fuel cell midsole. I mean, does that really mean anything nowadays? I believe there's a little bit of PBA in this midsole, probably a lot of EVA in my opinion, and we do have a higher stack height than last year's model, as well as a 6mm heel to toe drop instead of that 4mm heel to toe drop that they used last year. And in my opinion, this setup is just way better than last year's model. Now, I do think that it is on the softer side, and when I did push my runs longer than a half marathon, I did feel like my body started to feel a little bit of aches and pains, especially the day after. So I don't think that impact protection is maybe the best in this shoe. But then again, if you're picking up this shoe and you're maybe training for a 5K, a 10K, maybe a half marathon, and you're not really putting in a whole lot of miles on a week in, week out basis, and you kind of just want a casual running shoe that you can maybe run, you know, anywhere from 10 to 20 miles a week, this cushion setup is definitely going to be enough for you. Also, this is coming from someone that's 6'1", 200 pounds, so I know I'm not like the average build of a typical runner. So if you are maybe on the lighter side and you prefer softer setups, as well as maybe you're not running as much mileage, or you're not planning to do super long runs in the shoe, or maybe you have different shoes attributed for your long runs, then this setup is still going to work for you. It's a very comfortable setup. It is a little bit on the softer side, like I said, but it does have a decently wide base, so I don't think stability was really an issue. I just felt that over time, as I ran more and more in the shoe, I did feel like my body started to ache, and especially I could really tell the next day after, where the impact protection maybe wasn't on par with a lot of these other more premium daily trainers. Not to say that this cushion setup is bad. I would just say for me personally, I kept it under 13 miles in this shoe and I was good to go. And I didn't feel any of those aches and pains, by the way. So overall, the cushion setup was soft, comfortable. If you do prefer a softer setup, this is going to be for you. I don't want to also say that it's so soft, because in the forefoot, when you are picking up the pace, let's talk about faster runs, I did feel like the foam compressed in the forefoot a decent amount, and actually wasn't, I mean, not in a bad way, but in the way that it's stable in the forefoot, as well as you can really push off of the forefoot versus you like sinking your foot into the shoe, if that makes sense. So for example, like in the Brooks Glycerin Max, when I try to run faster in that shoe, I feel like I'm kind of running in quicksand because the foam keeps compressing and there's so much of that foam in the forefoot, versus in these, the foam compresses pretty quickly and then you're able to kind of bounce back. It doesn't give you the bounciest or most responsive feel in this shoe. I know it's a little bit of PBA based, but honestly, it more so feels like an EVA, like a pretty soft EVA at that. And when you compress the shoe, you're just able to kind of push off of the shoe instead of kind of getting that bounce from the foam. So you are going to be putting in the work in this shoe. It's not going to really do too much for you, but that's exactly what you would want in a daily trainer, especially one that's non-plated. So overall, the cushion setup, I think for what it is, I personally really like doing like easy runs in them. Easy runs maybe under 10 miles. I think that's like the best case scenario for this shoe. You can pick up the pace in this shoe, but I would honestly prefer maybe something a little bit more bouncy, or maybe something lower to the ground if I plan on running a little bit faster, especially for a short distance. So those are my personal preferences. I still think you can run slow, you can run fast, you can run short, and then maybe you can run like middle distance around like that 10 to 13 miles is that sweet spot for me personally. So I think that for what it is, I think that the cushion setup is very good, but when I compare it to some of the other daily trainers that are out on the market, I do think for marathon specific training, I do think that there are better options or setups out there on the market currently. Overall, I was very happy with the fuel cell setup on the Rebel V5. And last but not least, we're gonna talk a little bit about the upper and the fit. Now, this is actually the part where New Balance actually killed it from last year's model. Last year's model, in my opinion, fit my foot terribly. I wasn't also too big of a fan of like the tongue and just the upper in general. It was a lightweight shoe, don't get me wrong, but I just felt like it didn't fit my foot properly. It was a lot of volume in the forefoot. So when I saw that this year's model released, I kind of wanted to try it again, or I was a little bit iffy too about trying it again, but I think that these fit a lot better than last year's model. I mean, if last year's model fit your foot perfectly, then this year's model might not fit your foot perfectly. It's very up to you and up to your foot shape. But I have a slightly wider than average foot, and these fit my foot very, very well. There still is a little bit of volume in the forefoot, but it's not a lot like last year's, in my opinion. It did have enough space for my pretty wide forefoot, and there is still a little bit of volume up top, which is nice actually for those, I guess, longer runs when your feet expand. So, I mean, you kind of have something contradicting the cushion setup, but I mean, that's besides the point. But if you do want to take these on longer runs, the upper will accommodate for your foot expanding, which is really nice. It doesn't have that like super race-like fit in the forefoot that sometimes gets a little bit too tight. The midfoot lockdown was really, really good in the shoe. And then I did do the heel lock because the laces and the tongue were long enough this year. And I actually didn't have any heel slippage. Fit my foot very well, especially as I put more miles onto the shoe. I did feel like this shoe started to mold to my foot. The upper in general is pretty breathable actually. I'm happy to report that I did feel some breathability in the shoe while I was doing the long runs, while I was doing the shorter runs. So that's always a good sign. It's not the most breathable upper that I've had, but I do think that that's attributed to the pretty thin, lightweight mesh upper, or I think this is a mesh. It's kind of like a synthetic mesh maybe. I really am a big fan of this setup because there is still a little bit of support and structure in this upper versus maybe something like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 5, but it's not too much to the point where it's adding unnecessary weight. And this shoe, especially with the upper, just feels really lightweight on foot, really breathable. I feel like you have support in the places that you need it, and then no support in the places that you don't really need it. So I think that New Balance really killed the upper and the fit, in my opinion. I think that that's one of the best aspects of the shoe. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with the upper and the fit on the New Balance Rebel V5. Overall, how do I feel about the New Balance Rebel V5? I think that if you have multiple shoes in your rotation, and you want to add a daily trainer that's kind of for easy miles, you know, not really for long runs, I think that this is going to be a great addition to your setup. Or another scenario is that, you know, you're just getting into running, or maybe you are into running and you just don't really run past that half marathon point, or you have different shoes for that half marathon point. I think that this is a great shoe if you want to run casually, you know, 10 to 20 miles a week, or maybe even less than that, or maybe a little bit more than that, but you do keep the mileage under like that 13-mile range. That's for me personally. I don't want to deter you guys from running more than 13 miles in this shoe. That's just the sweet spot for me in this setup. I think it's a great daily trainer that's non-plated, very comfortable. The fit is really good. And also I do want to note that New Balance did not up the price of this daily trainer. So it is staying at that $140 price point. So kudos to you, New Balance. Thank you for not increasing the price like all these other brands. A lot of these other brands are charging $145 to $150 now for the same kind of daily trainer-esque shoe. And I want to commend New Balance for keeping the price the same and also increasing the value of this shoe by putting better materials on the upper and making the fit better, as well as increasing the stack height and, in my opinion, making the foam better than last year's model. So that's always a good thing. Good job, New Balance. I think that this shoe is way better than the Rebel V4 in my opinion, or at least it worked for me better. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have the shoe or if you have any other questions regarding the shoe. I'll do my best to answer them all down below. And also let me know what you want to see this shoe compared to. So I do have a lot of other daily trainers from a lot of other brands. So if you want to see a comparison video with like the Nova Blast 5, with the Pegasus 41s, the Saucony Ride 18s, just let me know in the comment section down below and I will do my best to get to it. I know I'm kind of backlogged on a lot of comparison videos right now, so those are coming in the near future. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and I will catch you guys in the next video.